Tonight you'll hear 5 stories of traditions and places that don't let go. A family's passed-down command turns boys into heralds of murder, convincing their fathers to kill the mother while the family name endures. A job offer brings a man to a hollow plumbing office where the welcome sign hides something rotten and a mistake could be the last thing you ever make. Voicemails begin arriving in your own voice, begging you not to open the door. Soldiers find alien hands that want human hearts, and a base that survives with secrets no one should keep. And when the world collapses, one man discovers that the only real escape is back into the console of his childhood. Listen closely. These are stories about bargains, inheritance, and the small choices that become monsters. Welcome to Nightmare Proof, where true horror comes alive. Here, you'll hear real stories of the strange, the disturbing, and the unexplainable. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to face the darkness. Story 1. My 10-year-old son convinced me to kill his mother but not my wife. My 10-year-old son says that we have to kill his mother now, who is also my wife. I know I have to do what my 10-year-old says, and now I must kill my wife. But he says that I will only be killing his mother and not my wife? I don't want to kill my wife, but my son says it is necessary and keeps saying that I am not killing my wife and just his mother. I don't know what to think. Like the other day, me, my wife, and my son were having a nice meal. Then my son says that we needed to kill his mother. I can't do it, and this is just insane, and I go up to my son and I tell him that I can't do it. You made your father kill your mother when you were 10 years old, and all that was left was the mother, my son says to me. He is right. When I was 10 years old, I too made my father kill my mother. I can't remember the reason why, and he actually did kill my mother. I can't remember the reason or how I managed to convince my dad that he needed to kill my mother but not his wife. I regret ever doing it to him. The thing is, though, I can't remember why I convinced my dad to kill my mother. One day he just did it, and that was that. Then my son told me that even my dad convinced my grandfather to kill his mother, and the same for his father before him. This is a curse among the family. I don't want to kill his mother, but my 10-year-old son said that it was tradition, and that we must all follow tradition. When a tradition is passed onto one generation to another, the tradition becomes alive. So, when my great-grandfather was 10 years old, he convinced his father to kill his mother, but not the wife, and this tradition became alive, and it possesses the 10-year-old sons to convince the father to kill the mother, but not the wife. My great-grandfather wasn't possessed, but he was just an evil genius, and that evil became alive and a curse among the men in our family. My son is getting more aggressive with me to kill his mother, but not my wife. I try to tell him that killing his mother will affect his life and my own life. All he seems to care is about the tradition. It became too much for me, and my son was too overbearing, and I did it. I hope my son grows up not having a son. Story 2. Stay away from Danny's plumbing service. I was applying for my 3rd job ever, and I thought that it was going to be my career. Oh boy, I couldn't have been more wrong. One day I was just looking around the internet for jobs and I came across this huge jackpot. The job was at a plumbing company and I would be dealing with the customers. I would be the one to call them and make the offers on repairs. The pay was very good, around 3,000 euros a month, as it was only my 3rd job. Quickly, I wrote an application and sent it in. Then I checked the phone number of the boss there and called him right then and there. The phone rang. Then someone picked up. Danny's plumbing service. How can I help you? I heard from the other side of the phone. Hello, it's Lenny Trakovich. I called because I saw that you had a job open. I just sent my application and wanted to call in to try to plan a meeting for us so we could get to know each other better, I asked enthusiastically. All right. Wait a moment. I heard from the other side. All right, how about next Monday at 12 p.m.? I just did a quick check on your application, and it seemed like you would suit our company very well, the man said after a minute or so. Yes, that would be great. I'll see you then. Where do we meet, and what's your name? I asked. I'm Trevor, and we'll meet at Danny's plumbing service. It's in the center of the city. Just follow the signs and you'll get there, said Trevor. All right, man. I'll try to remember those instructions. See you then. I told him. Then I hung up. That day was Friday, and I had to prepare for the meeting a little bit. The following weekend went by fast. I spent so much time rehearsing some lines. I had to get that job. Then came Monday, and I was ready. I had dressed better than usually and just cut my hair. Just before leaving, I had this feeling of something not being right. I didn't know what it was, but the feeling was there. I left for the interview and I found signs on the side of the road. Ashfield, 20 miles, and an arrow pointing left. I was pretty damn sure that the city was on the right, but I ignored my thoughts and just followed the signs. I drove a bit further, and then I saw a sign that says, Danny's Plumbing Service, 1 mile. Finally, the place was pretty close, but the town looked abandoned. There were a couple of buildings, but they definitely didn't house anyone. The windows were smashed, some windows were boarded, the paint was worn, and there were no signs of people being here. Then, I see this small gas station and a sign. Danny's Plumbing Service, open Monfrey, 8:16. That was the place. To my surprise, that place was in good shape, compared to the others at least. The house was worn. A couple of the windows were broken, but the painting looked pretty fresh. But that place was empty. What kind of place is this? I thought while scratching my head. Anyway, I had to pull over and go in there because I already agreed to this meeting. I got out of my car, walked to the front door, and tried the handle. It was locked, so I knocked. That's when I noticed that there was a note on the door. On business, back in an hour. Danny. The place was hollow, not a thing moving in sight. I tried peeking through the window, and what I saw next made my skin crawl. There was a body of someone lying on the floor. Face down, his arms bent weirdly and blood on the floor. The body was swarmed with flies. Suddenly, I heard a car approaching, fast. Instantly, I turned around, facing the car. It pulled over, and from the car came out a man. He was probably in his 52nds and a bit overweight. He had a wild beard, and he looked like he didn't take care of himself very well. He also had lost most of his teeth. Hello, I'm Trevor. You must be Larry, Trevor said. My name is Lenny. We talked on the phone about a possible job available, I answered. All this time, I kept thinking about the body of a man, just laying on the floor, lifelessly. Yes, we indeed did. Come on, let's get inside and talk more. I think we can figure something out, he answered me. All right, I answered, and followed him inside. To my surprise, the body was gone. How could this be? Just a couple of minutes ago, the body was there. Was it a long drive? Trevor asked me. Nope, it took only about 30 minutes, I told him. There was a small bit of silence, so I decided to ask him, what would be my tasks if I got the job? You would be waiting here for someone to call, make calls to possible clients, and then sort the clients and schedules. You would arrange our stuff, Trevor said, and he grinned. All right, sounds good to me. How long would the work days be? I asked. You'd start at 8 and finish at 4 in the afternoon, Trevor told me. While we talked, he kept grinning and taking small peeks behind me. That made me a little anxious. Was there someone else in here? Then Trevor and I quickly went through my previous experience and personal information. After that, he suggested that we do a tour of the place, and I agreed. As we walked around the place, I quickly realized that this place is not what it seems. The place was dirty and not taken care of. There were visible stains all over the floors and walls, visible mold and dust everywhere. Behind the building, a window was broken and patched up with a piece of wood. The place looked horrible, and the more I looked around, the more I wanted to leave that place. We reached a door that said, Office. Here is your workstation, Trevor told me. He opened the door, and the hinges were probably rusty as hell. The door squeaked open, and it was pretty dark in there. Go check it out. The lights can be turned on from the left, Trevor said. I stepped inside, and instantly, a horrible smell hit my nose. It smelt like mold, something rotting, and like there was some sort of leak. After surviving that foul stench hitting my face, I got the lights on, and what I saw made my decision about working there. The walls were all worn, the paint was flaky and falling off. The lamps in the ceiling had fallen to the ground. Even the windows were barred, and there was no light other than the one coming from that lamp. The place hadn't been cleaned in ages, and the smell made it seem like someone or something had been decomposing there. I did not plan on working there. My next move was to get the fuck out as fast as possible. I came out of there, and I didn't see Trevor. I walked around and found Trevor at the so-called break room. He was chomping down this gray and slimy stew. I almost puked but had to keep a straight face. I think I'm not gonna take this job. I'm sorry, but it's just too far away, I told Trevor. Huh, why not? I'll pay you more if you stay. We need you at Danny's Plumbing. Based on your resume, you would make the perfect fit, Trevor answered. I was hesitant to not help him, but I kept my decision. Every time I thought about my working space, I was horrified and wanted to just bolt. No thank you, I'm sorry, I told him. Trevor's face started twitching, and he started to look furious. He took a deep breath and said, I hate to do this, but it's your own fault. He took a few steps towards me, and I turned around and got the fuck out of there. I ran out of there, and when I looked back, Trevor was chasing me. I couldn't go to my car because he would have caught me, so I made him chase me, and then I led him away from the company's building. I saw him stop and vomit. He was probably exhausted. I was in pretty good shape back then. I turned around and ran past him to my car. I'll find you! You won't get away from us! Trevor yelled. Sprinting full speed got to me as well, but I made it to my car. I turned it on and reversed it. I saw Trevor from my rearview mirror. He kept shaking his fists, and it looked like he was yelling. His face was all red. I couldn't stay there for long, so I left and never went back. I never found out what was going on there, and honestly, I don't ever want to. Story 3. Voicemails. The voicemails. Lately, I've been receiving strange voicemails from someone who sounds like me. I don't know how to explain it, but it goes as follows. I recently moved into a new apartment a couple of months back after a bad breakup. I didn't have much money left from the move, so I managed to get myself a cheap cell phone and one of those prepaid providers. The service was decent enough for the price, so I didn't complain. It wasn't until I started receiving voicemails from an unknown number that things began to feel off. At first, they were faint, full of static and muffled whispers that cut in and out. I figured it was just a recycled number, maybe someone trying to reach whoever had this phone before me. As the days went by, the voicemails continued to pile up, all about the same length, all ending in a burst of static. I stopped checking them all together. They all sounded the same, or so I thought. One night, I was out with a buddy when I got another notification. Another voicemail. He laughed when I told him about it, so I put it on speaker to show him. What we heard sent chills down my spine. It was my voice on the other end, screaming, crying, begging for help. The background was filled with strange metallic sounds, like something scraping against concrete. My friend stopped laughing. He looked pale, and after a moment, muttered something about needing to get home. He didn't even finish his drink before he left. The next morning, I called my provider and told them everything. They said they'd look into it and call me back with more information. Days went by. No call back, no new voicemails, not even a text from my buddy. Then, late last night, my phone buzzed one new voicemail. I just sat there staring blankly at my screen. Fear flooded my mind as I watched the notification appear. I couldn't bring myself to open it. Instead, I dismissed it, crawled into bed, and told myself I'd deal with it in the morning. Maybe I'd wake up and realize it was all just a dream. Knock, knock, knock. I jolted awake to the sound of someone at my front door. Heart pounding, I slipped on my house shoes and shuffled toward the door. "Who's there?" I called out. A familiar voice answered. "My bad, man. It's me. I just wanted to apologize for not keeping in touch." It was my buddy. Relieved, I reached for the doorknob, but something inside me hesitated. A quiet voice in my head whispered, "Check your phone." I unlocked it and froze. That same voicemail notification had appeared again, only this time, the app had automatically generated a transcript of the message. It read, "Please don't open the door. He's here to take you." Story 4. The Creature. Late at night on the army base, when we were attacked by these things, These creatures, they were large, gray, tall, skinny things with tentacles for arms. My friend Sergeant Han and I were standing base when we saw a light from above, then the sound from 50 kilometers away. It was a crash, one that shook the ground. What do we do, Juan? Let's take our weapons and go check it out. That's when we saw them. Holy shit, boss won't believe this one. Fire your weapon, Jack, Juan shouted. Shoot for the heart. I hesitated for a minuet, something a soldier should never do. The beast-like creature raised its tentacle-like hand and time just slowed down. I can't explain it. When everything got better and the creature put down its tentacle, Juan screamed out in pain. I knew I had to help him, so I ran straight to him as fast as I could. What just happened? My chest! He cried. My chest! I tried to shoot him, but I couldn't move. I looked up, trying to find the creature, and it was still there, and it spoke to us telepathically. I need your heart, he explained. It will help me live here and take over humanity. Fuck, a voice rang out behind us. It was General Hagnar. Shoot him, I'll take care of Han. I raised my weapon and shot the motherfucker in the heart, which the creature went down screaming, a horrible loud screech that sounded like he was calling to the other creatures. We brought the creature to the base. Some type of alien. I'll take some time dissecting it, General Hagnar said. It felt scaly and rough. The base was never attacked again by other aliens. Story 5. Escape. Tommy reached into the box and pulled out a familiar black console. He smiled before taking a deep breath and blowing the dust off the electronic device. Nostalgia overcame him as he flicked the colorful PlayStation logo into one position, then another. Pushing a button on the front of the device, the disc tray sprang open, revealing the disc within. His smile widened as the sight of it opened the floodgates on long-withheld childhood memories of long summer days and nights sitting in front of an old CRT television screen as he controlled Jack in his beloved video game. Overcome with emotion, he gently closed the disc tray, reverently brushing the plastic surface of the console before tucking it under his arm and searching the box again. There, in that dusty attic, Tommy found his old ocean blue PS2 controller, the wire horribly gnarled from its past of near constant use. Cradling it in his arm like a delicate puppy, he retrieved the AV and power cables, both of which he draped around his neck like sashes of ceremony. Carefully, he carried his treasures down to the first floor of his home. In his room, his phone vibrated on his nightstand. Notifications with blaring warnings in stark, capitalized letters warned of impending danger. The screen lit up intermittently as source after source of news flooded his lock screen with report after report of slowly encroaching chaos. Tommy didn't care. The screen of his phone faced the surface of his small wooden nightstand he had purchased at a garage sale for $10, the top of which was horribly scarred by the ungentle hands of a crayon-wielding toddler. That was okay. No one but him would see the top of his nightstand anyway. His phone buzzed away before coming to a halt at the very edge of his pre-owned furniture. It sat silent for a minute before blaring loudly with the hauntingly familiar tone of the emergency alert system, the text of which remained unreadable, as Tommy had deliberately set his phone face down before heading up to his attic. Tommy passed by his room again, ignoring the dreadful tone. He didn't hear anything. He didn't want to hear anything. Instead, Tommy went up to the attic a second time before carefully coming back down with an old, bulky black CRT television set. Stickers plastered the sides and borders of the tubular square screen, evoking even more memories of past childhood obsessions. Several were scratched and torn, others were whole. All of them were faded. Tommy set the television set down, opting to place it on the floor in front of his larger 35-inch flat screen. It just felt like the right thing to do, given the circumstances. Tommy sighed and stared at the unpowered appliance for a moment, swearing he could hear the sound of skateboards and bicycle bells outside as his reflection momentarily switched to an image of his younger prepubescent self. He brushed the top of the television, patting it gently as tears filled his eyes. Blinking them away, he set to plugging in all the cables into all the right places. Outside, Tommy's neighbors rushed to and from their houses, loading up their vehicles with everything they could possibly need. Where they were going, they didn't know, only that it needed to be far, far away. Bag after bag was loaded before the thump of a trunk and the screeching of tires signaled their departure. Only one man, an old war vet, didn't. He had seen his fair share of horrible things, but not this one. Not yet. Setting out a camping chair and a cooler full of ice and beer, he sat down on his lawn with a satisfied grunt. Grabbing a can from the cooler, he cracked it open and guzzled, downing the drink in one go. He burped and laughed loudly before tossing the can into the street, where it proceeded to roll downhill before falling into a storm drain. He opened another one and leaned back in his chair, his eyes toward the east. Inside his home, Tommy powered on his old PS2. He grinned widely as the familiar, nostalgic ambient sound washed over him before the on-screen animation played, and he soon found himself booting up Jak and Daxter. Tears welled up in his eyes again as the familiar sounds and visuals of the game tore him from this time and place and put him squarely back into his childhood past. He sat cross-legged on the floor in front of his television, back improperly arched as he stared at the screen with keen interest, his fingers mashing the buttons on his old, beloved ocean blue controller. Outside, the sirens began to sound as more notifications popped up on Tommy's phone before it finally fell off his nightstand, revealing the text that read, "Seek shelter now," to the empty bedroom around it. His neighbor, the old war vet, cheered and raised his beer to the sky as a long trail of smoke slowly approached the nearby military base, followed by several more. He grinned almost maniacally as he downed the contents of the beer can in several large gulps. Back inside, Tommy stayed immersed in the world of Jak and Daxter, back in the safety of his childhood obsession. And as the power went out and the screen went black, Tommy kept hitting the buttons on his controller as the world rumbled around him, his mind still in the game. He stared straight ahead, a smile plastered on his face as tears fell freely now. He had found his escape. Thank you for watching Nightmare Proof. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the nightmares alive. Have a story of your own? Send it in, and you may hear it here next time. Until then, sleep well if you can.